Hey guys, welcome back to Pro Wrestling Straight Shooter. I'm your host, Tats Deej. Again, as always, if you're coming back and watching me again, thank you. Much love for supporting me. If you're new to the show, go back and watch the prior segments, man. Get in on the conversation. Talk to me. Let me know what you think. Today, as I've made abundantly clear, I'm a huge WWE fan. I have been ever since I was a kid. I've watched them through the highs, I've watched them through the lows, and I've watched them everywhere in between. And what I thought I might do is a two-part video talking about the 5 things that I think they're doing wrong and the 5 things that I think they're doing right. And I'm speaking strictly as a fan, not just, somebody who used to be in pro wrestling, but as a fan of their product and a fan of the business in general. These are just things that, kind of my opinion here. So I'm going to jump right into my list and start with number 5. And this is a big one for me: ridiculous gimmicks. When I think back to some of the most awful gimmicks, I think of the late 80s and the early 90s with the Alex the Pug Portos and the Duke the Dumpster Drozies and, the Papa Shangos and all this just ridiculous gimmicks that just didn't entertain me as a fan. And then I fast forward to this day and age, and it's almost like creative's mentality has gone backwards. Now we're getting guys like Fandango and Brodus Clay. I'm sorry, Brodus Clay didn't work when Flash Funk did it in the 90s. It's damn sure not going to work now. And even more offensively, and I don't mean offensive in a social or a sensitivity standpoint, I just mean offensive because it's offensive to me as a fan. Adam Rose and the Rosebuds. I look at, and these are just 3 examples of a couple of other gimmicks that I think they really just need to find something else to do with these guys. And let me make clear, this is not a knock on the guys or their ability in the ring. I can't really speak for their abilities in the ring because as soon as I see their gimmicks, I tune out. There is nothing about the Brodus, and Brodus Clay's gone now, so he's kind of a non-factor, but there was nothing about a Brodus Clay character that made me want to watch. Same thing with Fandango. Is anybody out there watching really a huge fan of the Fandango character? I mean, the guy's got a great look. He's probably not that bad in the ring, but the gimmick just, I'm not feeling it, man. Is anybody, what do you think? Number 4 on the list is overhyping the social media. Now I understand they've got a huge market and, trending worldwide, WWE Network, Dean Ambrose versus Bray Wyatt. We get it and we enjoy that and we want to get in on the discussion, but we don't need to be reminded of it every 5 minutes. We know it's 2015. Everyone's on Twitter, everyone's on YouTube, everyone's on Facebook, everyone's online. Okay, we don't need to be reminded every 3 minutes to go follow whatever's trending at the moment. We'll find it. We're already dialed in. Number 3 on the list: finding a common ground between the Attitude Era and the PG-13 era. And this is one that I'm going to talk about for a couple minutes because I'm going to do an entire show one day on the differences between the PG-13 and the Attitude Era, why I think the PG-13 era is good, why I prefer the Attitude Era over the PG-13 era. But speaking strictly in today's environment, in today's climate, and again, refer back to the Triple H podcast with Stone Cold Steve Austin, where he talks about the nature of the business these days. They are really trying to cater to a broad spectrum of fans. Everybody from the ages of 5 up to 95 are their audience, and there's not really a core demographic that they're reaching right now because a lot of kids now are buying these WWE toys. Hell, I did when I was a kid. I had the little wrestling buddies and the little rubber bendable things, and it's what they geared towards, and that's what today's storytelling environment is. And they're really trying to balance keeping some of the edginess for the late teen, early 20 and 30 crowd, but still not being so offensive that the people in their 60s and up are going, I'm not going to watch this crap, it's garbage. And that the kids younger than the age of 18 are going to go, I can't watch this because mommy won't let me. And it's a tricky, delicate balancing act, but it can be done better than they're doing it, and they're trying, but some of the watered down stuff, they've watered down certain things and out of necessity for where the business headed. But I think you're insulting people's intelligence when you water it down too much. We're expected to buy this product and believe in this product, but dudes are getting bounced around everywhere and their heads are getting knocked off the steel steps and their heads are getting rammed into posts and they're getting punched in the face and nobody bleeds. Now, I'm not saying there needs to be buckets of blood like there were in the Attitude Era, but it would be all right if every once in a while we saw a little bit of color. So finding that common ground, because the Attitude Era was such a huge part of WWE's history, and quite frankly, it was probably one of the better eras to be even watching pro wrestling. And I think when they started to steer clear of that is when they started to lose a lot of their audience. And if they want to get that audience back, they've got to attract that audience back. And attracting that audience back, also refer back to issue number 5 with the stupid gimmicks. Anyway, moving on. Number 2 on my list is Brock Lesnar, and more importantly, the WWE title as it pertains to Brock Lesnar. I'm a huge Brock Lesnar fan. When he left initially, I was disappointed. I get it. I understand the road is not the place for everyone. Not everyone can handle a 300-day-a-year schedule. Not everybody wants to be away from home that long. Some guys can do it, some guys can't. And it takes its toll on the body. And Brock Lesnar wanted to go do other things. He wanted to try out for football. When football failed, he wanted to do the UFC thing. When the UFC thing became very successful for him, there was no reason for him to come back. But he found a reason to come back, whether the money was right, whether he missed the business, or whether there was just, okay, let's do this for a little while. They brought him back and they give it Brock Lesnar, and the jowls are shaking and everything. But then he wasn't there. And again, on the Steve Austin podcast, they've talked about this. Austin feels, and I feel, Lesnar should be a bit more visible, mostly because he's the champ. And, Vince McMahon talked on the podcast about how Brock Lesnar's he's a what was the term he used? An attraction, and you can't give people too much of an attraction, because if you give them too much, you lose the novelty of it. And that's true, except when your attraction disappears for up to 3 months and you don't see him, he becomes less of an attraction. Out of sight, out of mind. This isn't hard to figure out. And I really think, if they had Brock Lesnar for a limited amount of dates, they didn't use those dates very wisely, and keeping him off of TV for almost, 3 consecutive pay-per-views, you haven't seen the world champ or seen the world title defended. It's not like there weren't guys they couldn't have put out there for Brock Lesnar to eat. So really, in handling Brock Lesnar and the way that whole thing went down, I'm not a fan of that. I think it was something they could have done a little bit differently. They missed an opportunity to take advantage of a really big name and use him properly. And in the process, I think they've belittled the WWE title, and they've demeaned the significance of the guy that ends up beating him for that world title. The whole discussion about Brock Lesnar leads me into my number 1 thing that they've done wrong lately, and that's ending the Undertaker's streak. Here's what I have to say about the Undertaker streak. In my opinion, and again, being not only a huge Undertaker fan, but just a fan of the business in general, and being someone who's been in the business and appreciates giving to the business as well as the business giving back, Undertaker gave more, in my opinion, more than just about anybody in the WWE. He's been a mainstay for 25 years, and he's always been there. And he's gone with the flow. He's changed the gimmick to meet the times. He's done his thing, and he's contributed more than just about anybody else on that roster. What was the problem in letting the man retire undefeated and giving him that one thing back? The one thing that nobody can ever take away from him, and the one thing that can't be duplicated, is a 21-0 winning streak at WrestleMania. Let the man retire undefeated. And I say that because I think The Undertaker deserved it for his contributions to the industry. And if there's any argument for that, I will say this. They let Edge retire. He went out with a neck injury. He can't wrestle anymore. He's done, which is sad. Edge was a talent, and I was a fan. But they let Edge retire with the world title. They've never let anybody retire with the world title. Edge took the whole thing and went home. Bam. Nobody beat him for it. And again, not taking anything away from Edge, but in the grand scheme of the business, his contribution was much, much less than The Undertaker's was. So that makes number 1 on my list, because I really think that was, and you can't turn back on it now. And, if anybody's got regrets, it's too late now. It's done. But I really think that was the one thing WWE should have done, and I really think that was the start of this downward spiral that they're having with a lot of the fans, was the decision to pull the trigger on, breaking The Undertaker's streak and using Brock Lesnar to do it. I'm Tats Deej. Next episode, I'm going to talk about the 5 things that I think they're doing right. Now that I've just buried them, I'm going to build them back up again. I think there's some really good things they've got going on, and some things that I think that they're really moving in a positive direction on. So anyway, I'm Tats Deej. I love you guys as always for watching. Thank you. Again, get in on the discussion. Find me on Twitter. Find me on Tumblr, Tats Deej. Share my videos. Get it out there with your friends. Have them join the discussion, and I'll talk to you next time. I'm out.